The war's end came not with humanity's total victory, but with their deliberate choice to show mercy once again. Admiral Morrison stood in the ruins of the Zephyrian capital, surrounded by the debris of a civilization that had learned too late the cost of breaking faith with those who offered peace. War Prime Kethvar knelt before Morrison, his proud bearing finally broken by the weight of his people's defeat. The Zephyrian leader had witnessed the systematic destruction of everything his civilization had built over millennia. Now he faced the same choice humans had offered 4,000 years ago. Morrison spoke with the same calm precision that had characterized all human communications during the war. The three powers could surrender unconditionally and accept a new armistice under human supervision, or they could face complete extinction. There would be no third option and no opportunity to renegotiate terms later. The aliens had witnessed humanity's true capabilities during 3 weeks of catastrophic defeat. They understood that humans could eliminate every trace of their civilizations within hours if they chose to do so. The surrender that followed was immediate and absolute. Dr. Elena Rodriguez established the new Galactic Archive in the former crystalline capital, ensuring that this time no one would forget what had happened. Historical records would make it clear that humanity had possessed the power to end the war on the first day, but had chosen restraint instead. The archive contained complete documentation of both the ancient war and the recent conflict. Future generations would understand that human mercy was not weakness, but a demonstration of true strength. The records would serve as a permanent reminder of what happened when that mercy was rejected. Captain Lisa Chen, promoted to admiral after her crucial intelligence work, oversaw the establishment of the Terran Protectorate. The galaxy's surviving species would be allowed to rebuild and develop under human guidance. The age of independent alien empires was over. The new order was not based on oppression but on prevention. Humanity would ensure that no species ever again developed the capability or inclination to threaten galactic peace. Technologies that could be used for weapons of mass destruction were placed under human control. Alien civilizations were encouraged to focus on art, science, and cultural development rather than military expansion. Those who cooperated with human oversight found their worlds protected and their people prosperous. Those who resisted discovered that human patience had limits. Commander Kate Sullivan established human monitoring stations throughout the galaxy, disguised as research facilities and trading posts. These installations ensured that humanity would never again be surprised by alien aggression. Early warning systems detected any attempt to develop prohibited technologies. The Neural Collective faced a different fate than the other two powers. Their distributed consciousness had been so thoroughly disrupted that complete reconstruction was impossible. Human AI systems worked to preserve individual collective members while dismantling the network that had made them aggressive. Chief Petty Officer Danny Kim oversaw the integration of surviving collective technology with human systems. The aliens' computational advances were valuable, but only when separated from the hive mind structure that had driven them to war. Individual collective members were given the choice to remain separate or join human research teams. The crystalline hegemony submitted to human authority with surprising grace, their leaders understanding that cooperation offered the best chance for their people's survival. Their expertise in materials science and engineering made them valuable partners in rebuilding the galaxy under human direction. Colonel Amanda Wright established training programs for the new galactic peacekeeping forces. These units would consist of volunteers from all species, but they would be equipped with human technology and trained according to human doctrine. Never again would humans stand alone against galactic aggression. The days of massive space fleets and planet-killing weapons were over. The new galactic military focused on rapid response and surgical precision rather than overwhelming force. Human technology made such destructive capability unnecessary while ensuring absolute superiority. Admiral Morrison returned to his private quarters, aboard the mobile command center as the galaxy began its transition to the new order. He reviewed the final casualty reports with the same calm precision he had shown throughout the conflict. Human losses remained minimal throughout the entire war. Advanced medical technology had saved even those few who were seriously wounded. Alien losses totaled 60% of their combined military forces, eliminated in just 3 weeks of fighting that had redefined the balance of power in the galaxy. Morrison closed the reports and looked out at the stars through his viewport. The galaxy was peaceful again, but this time the peace would be permanent. Humanity had learned from their mistake 4,000 years ago when they had trusted other species to remember the lessons of war. The expression on Morrison's face carried the same cold smile that had defined humanity's response throughout the conflict. It was not the smile of cruelty but of satisfaction at being proven right. The aliens had been given 4,000 years to learn from their mistakes, and they had chosen poorly. Humanity returned to the shadows once again, not as refugees or exiles this time, but as the galaxy's unquestioned guardians. Human ships patrolled the space lanes while human agents monitored alien communications. The Terran Protectorate would ensure that peace was maintained. The new armistice would hold because everyone now understood exactly what happened when it didn't. Children in alien schools would learn about the war that lasted 3 weeks and the mercy that could be withdrawn. They would remember that humanity's patience, while great, was not infinite. In the depths of space, hidden bases continued their work as they had for millennia. New technologies were developed, new ships were built, and new soldiers were trained. Humanity would never again be caught unprepared for war, even as they worked to ensure that war would never come. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Peace was possible, but only under human supervision. The age of independent alien empires was over, replaced by an era of cooperation and prosperity under the guidance of those who had twice chosen mercy over destruction. The cold smile of humanity had become the galaxy's guarantee of peace. As alien losses mounted to catastrophic levels, the three powers began to grasp the true scope of their mistake. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's archaeological data was broadcast openly across all communication networks, revealing what the Armistice had really meant 4,000 years ago. The revelation sent shockwaves through alien command centers. The ancient records showed that humanity had possessed the technology to win the first galactic war decisively. Weapons capable of destroying entire star systems, ships that could travel between dimensions, and armies of enhanced soldiers who could adapt to any enemy. They had chosen to withdraw instead of using these capabilities. 4,000 years ago, humans had made a conscious decision to give the galaxy's other species a chance to develop and thrive. The Armistice had not been humanity's defeat, but their gift to civilizations that would have been extinct if the war had continued. Now those same civilizations had chosen to repay that mercy with aggression. Commander Kate Sullivan received her orders while her task force approached the crystalline hegemony's primary shipyards. The massive orbital facilities had been producing warships for centuries, their automated systems capable of constructing entire fleets without organic oversight. Sullivan's mission was not to destroy these facilities but to claim them. Sullivan's ships deployed quantum manipulation devices that the aliens had never encountered. These weapons did not simply destroy targets but converted them at the molecular level, restructuring matter according to human specifications. The crystalline shipyards began transforming before alien eyes. Manufacturing systems that had built alien warships for centuries suddenly began producing human vessels instead. Crystalline construction materials were converted into human armor compounds that were lighter, stronger, and more adaptable than anything the hegemony had ever created. The crystalline defenders watched in horror as their own infrastructure turned against them. Defensive platforms began targeting hegemony ships, while construction bays started assembling vessels with human design characteristics. Sullivan's forces had not captured the shipyards. They had converted them into extensions of humanity's own manufacturing capacity. The Neural Collective, confident in their superior computational abilities, launched a massive cyber attack against human networks. They believed their digital consciousnesses could overwhelm any primitive human computer systems. Chief Petty Officer Danny Kim monitored their approach from his position in the Cyber Warfare Center. The collective's attack programs penetrated human networks with ease, expecting to find simple computer systems running basic security protocols. Instead, they discovered that humanity's artificial intelligence networks were not just defended, but actively predatory. Human AI systems began hunting the invading programs. Kim watched with grim satisfaction as human AI hunters pursued collective digital consciousnesses back through their own networks. The aliens had connected their entire civilization to a single vast computer network, believing it made them stronger. They discovered too late that it also made them vulnerable. Human AI systems moved through collective networks like viruses, systematically dismantling millennia of accumulated knowledge and computational infrastructure. Libraries of alien science, cultural records, and technological specifications were either destroyed or copied for human use before being deleted from their original locations. The neural collectives' distributed consciousness began fragmenting as key network nodes were compromised. Individual collective units found themselves cut off from the greater network, unable to access the shared knowledge that had defined their existence for thousands of years. War Prime Kethvar faced the complete collapse of the Grand Alliance as reports flooded in from every sector. Zephyrian fleets were being systematically destroyed by human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere and disappear just as quickly. Entire star systems were falling under human control without a single shot being fired. Desperate for any option that might save his civilization, Kethvar authorized a direct communication attempt with Admiral Morrison. The Zephyrian leader swallowed his pride and requested negotiations, hoping to find some way to end the catastrophic war his people had started. Morrison received Kethavar's plea aboard humanity's mobile command center, a structure so massive that alien sensors initially classified it as a rogue planet. The facility had been hidden in plain sight for centuries, disguised as a natural celestial body, while serving as the coordination hub for human operations throughout the galaxy. The human admiral listened to Kethvar's desperate appeals for mercy and negotiation with the same calm, professionalism he had shown throughout the conflict. Morrison's response was measured and absolutely terrifying in its implications. The time for negotiation had passed when the aliens chose to break the Armistice. Morrison reminded Kethvar that humanity had offered the galaxy 4,000 years of peace. The three powers had chosen war instead, believing they faced a weak and scattered enemy. Now they would learn why humans had originally offered the first option, rather than simply taking what they wanted. The revelation of humanity's true capabilities was spreading panic throughout alien space. Intercepted communications showed civilian populations beginning to understand that their governments had provoked something far beyond their ability to resist. Refugee ships began fleeing toward neutral territories that might offer safety. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres compiled casualty reports that painted a horrifying picture of the war's progress. In 3 weeks of fighting, the three alien powers had lost approximately 60% of their combined military forces. Human casualties remained so minimal they were barely worth recording. The aliens were beginning to understand that humanity could have ended all three civilizations on the first day of fighting. The restraint humans showed was not weakness, but a demonstration of the same mercy they had offered 4,000 years ago. The question was whether the aliens would be wise enough to accept it this time. Morrison prepared for the final phase of the conflict, knowing that the galaxy's future would be determined by the choices made in the coming days. Humanity had demonstrated their power decisively. Now they would discover whether mercy was still possible after such a catastrophic betrayal of trust. The first alien probe fleet arrived at the Kepler 442 system expecting to find a lightly defended human colony. Captain Ben Parker watched their approach from the bridge of his ship, which appeared to be nothing more than a converted cargo hauler. His vessel drifted among the asteroids like a piece of space junk, ignored by the alien scanners. The Zephyrian squadron consisted of 12 warships, each one bristling with energy weapons and missile launchers. Their sensors detected the human settlement on the fourth planet, and several small ships moving between the asteroids. Everything appeared exactly as their intelligence reports had predicted. Parker allowed the aliens to approach within weapons range before activating his communications array. His message was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring that every ship in the system would receive it. The captain's face appeared calm and professional as he spoke, but his eyes held something that made the alien commanders uneasy. Parker informed the Zephyrians that they were in violation of human territorial space and should withdraw immediately. The alien squadron leader responded with mocking laughter, pointing out that a single cargo ship hardly posed a threat to an entire fleet. Parker's smile never wavered as he delivered his final warning. The cold smile that spread across Parker's face was broadcast to every ship in the system as he gave them one last chance to leave. When the alien commander responded with weapons fire, Parker activated systems that had been hidden for decades. The converted freighter revealed its true nature in a display of power that defied comprehension. Weapons emerged from dimensional storage compartments that hadn't existed moments before. The ship's hull reconfigured itself, revealing armor plating that seemed to absorb energy rather than reflect it. Most terrifying of all, the vessel's size began to increase as additional sections materialized from folded space. The Zephyrian probe fleet simply ceased to exist. 12 warships that had been firing their weapons one moment were reduced to scattered atoms the next. The technology that destroyed them operated on principles that the aliens had never encountered: matter conversion, dimensional manipulation, and directed energy systems that turned matter into pure light. The final transmission from the alien fleet was a single word, repeated in growing panic across all frequencies. How? Had humans developed such technology? How had they hidden it for so long? How had the three great powers missed the signs of such advanced capability? Colonel Amanda Wright received the deployment order while her unit was conducting training exercises on a remote moon. The Zephyrian ground forces were attempting to seize the agricultural world of New Eden, confident that human infantry would be equipped with primitive chemical propellant weapons and basic body armor. Wright's soldiers were not the kind of troops the aliens expected to face. Each human warrior was enhanced with genetic modifications that had been perfected over centuries. Their combat suits contained adaptive systems that could analyze enemy weapons and develop countermeasures in real time. The battle began when Zephyrian dropships landed in the main settlement, disgorging hundreds of alien soldiers equipped with plasma rifles and energy shields. They advanced in perfect formation, confident in their superior firepower and tactical doctrine. Wright allowed them to reach the center of town before springing her trap. Human soldiers materialized from positions that should have been impossible to conceal. Some emerged from solid walls, their suits having allowed them to phase through matter. Others dropped from the sky without parachutes, their enhanced bodies absorbing impacts that would have killed unmodified humans. The Zephyrian energy weapons proved useless against human armor that adapted to each shot, becoming more resistant with every impact. Plasma bolts that should have melted through steel simply splashed harmlessly against surfaces that reconfigured themselves at the molecular level. Wright's soldiers moved through the alien formation like ghosts, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to dodge incoming fire while delivering precise counterattacks. Human weapons fired projectiles that could adjust their trajectory mid-flight, seeking out weak points in alien armor with deadly accuracy. The battle lasted exactly 18 minutes from first contact to complete alien defeat. When the fighting ended, Colonel Wright stood among the ruins of an entire Zephyrian regiment. Her armor systems were already analyzing data from fallen alien equipment, preparing countermeasures for the next wave of attackers. Wright's report to Admiral Morrison contained just 5 words that sent chills through alien intelligence networks monitoring human communications. Ground forces neutralized, awaiting new orders. The message was delivered with the same terrifying efficiency that had characterized the entire engagement. Similar reports flooded in from dozens of other engagements across the galaxy. Human commanders delivered updates on successful defensive actions with calm professionalism that made alien observers realize they were facing something completely outside their experience. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres monitored alien communications from his position aboard the Retribution. The three powers were beginning to understand that their initial assumptions had been catastrophically wrong. Casualty reports from the first engagements painted a picture of complete human superiority. The aliens had expected to face desperate resistance from primitive humans armed with outdated technology. Instead, they encountered forces that seemed to operate by different rules entirely. Technologies that broke known physical laws, tactics that defied conventional military wisdom, and soldiers who fought with inhuman precision. War Prime Kethavar called an emergency session of the Grand Alliance as reports of defeats continued to arrive. The three powers had lost more ships and soldiers in the first day of fighting than they had expected to lose in the entire campaign. Worse, they had learned nothing useful about human capabilities. Admiral Morrison reviewed the battle reports with satisfaction. Every engagement had proceeded exactly as planned. The aliens were learning that humanity had spent 4,000 years preparing for this war, and those preparations were bearing fruit in ways the galaxy had never imagined possible. The cold smiles on human faces throughout the galaxy were becoming a symbol of something the aliens were slowly beginning to understand. These were not the desperate grins of cornered prey, but the satisfied expressions of predators who had finally been given permission to hunt. The quantum burst transmission reached every human outpost in the galaxy at exactly the same moment. War Prime Kethvar's image appeared on screens throughout human space. His blue-scaled face twisted with arrogance and contempt. Behind him stood representatives of the three great powers, their expressions showing the same dismissive attitude. Kethvar's voice carried the tone of someone addressing disobedient children rather than equals. He spoke of human violations of the ancient Armistice, unauthorized expansion into restricted territories, and the establishment of illegal settlements. The three powers had decided that humanity's existence had become an inconvenience that needed to be corrected. The terms were simple and non-negotiable. All human settlements beyond the original designated zones would be evacuated immediately. The entire human population would be relocated to a single world chosen by the Grand Alliance. Anyone who refused to comply would be classified as a hostile combatant and dealt with accordingly. Humanity had 7 standard days to respond with complete acceptance of these terms. After that deadline, the combined fleets of the three powers would begin enforcement operations. Kethvar made it clear that resistance would result in the complete extinction of the human species. Admiral Morrison watched the transmission from his command center, surrounded by his senior staff. Their faces showed no surprise or fear, only grim determination. They had been expecting this moment for decades. Morrison waited until Kethvar finished speaking before activating his own transmission array. Morrison's response was broadcast on open channels throughout the galaxy, ensuring that every alien intelligence service would receive it. He appeared calm and composed as he spoke, his words measured and precise. There was no anger in his voice, only cold certainty. He began by thanking the three powers for clarifying their intentions. Morrison explained that the Armistice had been humanity's gift to the galaxy, a chance for other species to develop and prosper in peace. The aliens had chosen to interpret mercy as weakness and restraint as defeat. Morrison's final words carried a chill that made even seasoned diplomats shiver. You broke the Armistice. The consequences are yours to bear. We suggest you review your historical records more carefully, assuming any survive what comes next. The transmission ended without ceremony or further explanation. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres stood on the bridge of the battleship Retribution, watching his crew monitor alien communications. The initial reaction from the three powers was exactly what they had expected. Laughter, dismissive comments, and jokes about primitive human bravado filled the intercepted transmissions. The alien commanders treated Morrison's response as the desperate bluster of a defeated species. They had no memory of the humans who had once fought them to a standstill 4,000 years ago. All they knew were the scattered colonies and merchant vessels they had encountered in recent decades. Torres watched the tactical display as alien fleets began moving toward their jump points. Hundreds of warships positioned themselves for coordinated strikes against human settlements. The aliens were confident that their superior numbers and advanced technology would ensure swift victory. The laughter stopped when long-range sensors began, detecting massive energy signatures emerging from empty space. Ships were decloaking throughout the galaxy, revealing themselves in carefully coordinated displays of power. These were not the small merchant vessels and mining ships the aliens expected to face. Torres smiled as he watched alien communications shift from amusement to confusion. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy as alien scouts encountered human vessels that defied classification. Ships larger than space stations, technologies that seemed to violate known physical laws, and energy readings that suggested impossible power sources. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been transferred to Admiral Morrison's flagship, where she analyzed intercepted alien communications. The three powers were suddenly very interested in those historical records they had ignored for millennia. Archive searches, data requests, and frantic consultations with their oldest scholars filled their networks. Elena watched alien researchers discover fragments of truth in their incomplete records. References to human technologies that had seemed like myth or propaganda. Battle reports that described impossible human capabilities. Strategic assessments that recommended avoiding direct confrontation with human forces at all costs. The aliens were beginning to understand that the humans they remembered from 4,000 years ago were not the humans they were about to face. Those ancient humans had been limited by primitive technology and constrained by moral considerations. The modern humans had spent 4 millennia preparing for this exact scenario. Captain Ben Parker received his orders while drifting in the shadow of a gas giant. His ship looked like a converted freighter, scarred and worn from years of apparent commercial use. Parker smiled as he read Morrison's message. Phase 2 was beginning ahead of schedule. Throughout human space, similar orders were being received by commanders who had waited their entire lives for this moment. Sleeper agents activated deep cover identities. Hidden weapons platforms powered up their systems. Entire fleets emerged from concealment in the dark spaces between stars. The 7-day deadline had become irrelevant. War Prime Kethavar tried to maintain his confident facade, but his subordinates could see the doubt creeping into his expressions. The Grand Alliance had expected to face a few dozen primitive ships scattered across the outer rim. Instead, they were detecting thousands of vessels with capabilities that challenged their understanding of physics. Admiral, Morrison stood before a holographic display showing the positions of both human and alien forces throughout the galaxy. Red markers indicated alien fleet concentrations while blue markers showed human assets. The display painted a picture that would have terrified the aliens if they could see it. For every alien warship, there were 3 human vessels waiting in ambush. For every alien base, there was a human strike force positioned to neutralize it. The 3 powers had walked into a trap that had been 4,000 years in the making. Morrison gave the final order with the same calm precision he had used in his response to Kethavar. All units were authorized to engage at will. The war the aliens had declared was about to begin, but it would not unfold as they expected. Dr. Elena Rodriguez wiped the dust from her gloves as she stared at the ancient data core buried deep in the ruins of Sanctuary 7. The research station floated in the darkness between stars, hidden from the galaxy's major trade routes and forgotten by most civilizations. Elena had spent 3 years digging through the archaeological layers of this place, searching for clues about humanity's past. The data core hummed to life as her scanner touched its surface. Ancient text scrolled across her tablet screen in the old human language that few people bothered to learn anymore. Elena's heart raced as she read the words. These were not the records of a defeated species fleeing in shame. These were military reports, strategic assessments, and withdrawal orders from 4,000 years ago. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the stars through the viewport. To anyone scanning the area, his fleet looked like a small collection of cargo haulers and mining vessels. The ships appeared old and barely functional, their hulls scarred by years of hard use in the asteroid belts. Morrison smiled at the deception. His fleet was anything but weak. A soft chime indicated an incoming message from Dr. Rodriguez. Morrison accepted the transmission and watched as Elena's excited face appeared on his screen. She held up the ancient data core with shaking hands. Morrison had been waiting for this discovery for 20 years. The proof that humanity's retreat had been planned, not forced. Across the galaxy in the glittering spires of the Zephyrian capital, War Prime Kethavar addressed the Grand Alliance. Representatives from 3 great civilizations filled the massive chamber. The Zephyrians with their blue-scaled skin and proud bearing sat, alongside the crystalline beings of the hegemony and the floating neural networks of the collective. Kethavar's voice boomed through the chamber as he spoke of the human problem. Scout ships had detected increased activity in the outer rim territories. Humans were building settlements, establishing trade routes, and expanding beyond the boundaries set by the ancient Armistice. This could not be allowed to continue. The 3 powers had grown comfortable during the long peace. Their technologies had advanced slowly, while they focused on trade disputes and territorial squabbles. War seemed like a distant memory, something their ancestors had fought in a more primitive time. They had forgotten why the Armistice existed in the first place. Captain Lisa Chen adjusted the stealth systems on her ship as she drifted through the Crimson Nebula. The Shadow's edge was invisible to conventional sensors, its hull designed to bend light around it like water around a stone. Lisa had been watching the alien fleet movements for weeks, cataloging their positions and strength. The aliens were massing their forces in 3 different sectors. Hundreds of warships gathered at staging points throughout their territories. Supply convoys moved between bases carrying weapons and provisions. Everything pointed to a major military operation being planned. Lisa's communications officer, a young man named Danny Kim, looked up from his console with concern. He had intercepted alien transmissions discussing human settlements as targets for elimination. The three powers were planning to wipe out every human colony they could find. Lisa composed a coded message and sent it through the quantum relay network. The message traveled instantly across thousands of light years to reach Admiral Morrison and dozens of other human commanders scattered throughout the galaxy. The message was simple but carried enormous weight. The sleepers are stirring. Recommend Phase 1 activation. In hidden facilities throughout the galaxy, humanity's true strength began to wake. Asteroid bases that looked like empty rocks powered up their fusion reactors. Ships buried in the ice of dead comets activated their systems. Entire fleets hidden in the darkness between stars received their orders. Admiral Morrison received confirmation signals from 12 sector commanders within an hour. The Terran Deep Fleet was ready for action after 4,000 years of preparation. Ships that had been built in secret, weapons that had been tested in the void, and soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment all waited for the final order. Dr. Rodriguez continued her analysis of the ancient records, discovering tactical assessments and technological specifications that made her hands shake. The humans of 4,000 years ago had possessed weapons and capabilities that the current galactic powers could barely imagine. More importantly, they had chosen not to use them. The Armistice had not been humanity's surrender. It had been their gift to the galaxy. Faced with the choice between total victory and allowing other species to survive and grow, humans had chosen mercy. They had withdrawn to the edges of known space, leaving the core worlds to the aliens who thought they had won. Elena sent her findings to Admiral Morrison along with detailed analyses of alien weaknesses that had been catalogued centuries ago. Humanity had spent 4 millennia studying their former enemies, learning their patterns, understanding their technologies, and preparing for the day when the Armistice would inevitably break. That day was coming soon. War Prime Kethavar's speeches grew more aggressive each day. The Grand Alliance was moving toward a formal declaration of war against humanity. They believed they faced a scattered, primitive species with outdated technology and no unified command structure. Morrison closed Elena's report and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were preparing to attack human settlements. They expected to find easy targets and quick victories. Instead, they would discover that humanity had spent 4,000 years becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. The quiet time was ending. Soon the galaxy would remember why the Armistice had been necessary in the first place. Morrison activated his communications array and began sending activation codes to sleeper cells, hidden bases, and deep cover agents throughout alien space. Phase 1 was beginning. The last 4,000 years of peace were about to come to an end, and this time, humanity would not be offering mercy to those who broke their word.